Good evening, everybody. I'm a little, totally not really up to the mark. I'm just looking whether what is the variation of time delay. This is original, not a lot. Good evening, everybody.
And I am going
I'm a
to
little,
right now come
totally
and
mute this, because
not
I'm
really
really
up
up
to
to the
the
mark.
mark. I can
I'm
hear
just
this,
looking whether
so
what. So I'm going to mute that, or I can just
time
turn
delay.
it off. Okay, I'll just mute and leave it on so that everybody can see this. It is very simple. The poem is called Ray of Light. Okay, I may have a little bit of history which I saved it to be spoken here rather than going on Facebook ranting. Let me get to the blog post of this. Um, Basically, this poem was originally written by me. I wrote this. I'm kind of completely a little disoriented because Milwaukee Brewers lost. We being me and James Roynault and a couple of others. We've been following very wholeheartedly this Milwaukee Brewers series. Unfortunately, they fell behind. They are now 2-3 behind, so that kind of disoriented, and I fell asleep here. I was trying to do the show earlier, and I just fell asleep. I think there's something going on here. This particular poem, which I'm coming directly to, I don't want to waste a lot of time speaking things, but I may say things to the present day context. The original poem was called Amygdalia, a ray of light. Ray of light, Amygdalia, a pure soul. This is pretty close to the novel Test of the D'Urbervilles, a pure woman, kind of like that, following Thomas Hardy's line of thoughts. But it's not like Thomas Hardy. I'm not Thomas Hardy. Thomas Hardy is a great poet. I'm just a normal poet. I'm just a normal human being. What I was trying to do here is write about a, a woman. And it is based on a complete utter stupidity. I was trying to help someone through poetry. This is not and even though initially some people actually encouraged me, but even those friends actually came back to me and said, okay, don't do this. If you try to speak through art, it only ends up with both of you hurt. Even though I was not hurt, she was hurt. She became pissed off, and she became afterwards became very emotional because of whatever that happened to her in her past. And I kind of said, okay, let me take a step back here. Okay, let me think about things. I don't want any romantic things. Even though I wrote these poems at that time, it's not with her. I was suggesting to her, use this as a model of your life. And I wrote some of these works at that time. And this is the kind of the end of it. And that's why I said it was stupid. It was very, very, very stupid for me to even think that I can help somebody through literature or through language or through words, which makes no sense. Okay, it will not put food on the table. A person cannot sit at home or using a phone can read poetry and blog post or even watch live shows, because at that time I was starting the live show, and she was a constant visitor on my blog TV show. That's why somebody I met recently from blog TV, which is a very interesting scenario. I will come to that, but this poem was written as this poem is like a woman rejecting a man. So that's what this was all about. I said, when this one was there, I usually go the opposite way. So this was not 100% opposite. It was a mutually agreed thing that we should not fall in love when using a woman as a model. I had this very because by that time already it happened. The whole Mukushla thing happened, and I was actually moving into away from all that kind of work. And I said, okay, I can use you as a model, but if you can take these things as a model of your life. So this is where things went wrong. So that's why I said, okay, this is all a stupid idea. But then uh, the idea was actually a woman rejecting a man, and uh, the main reason was the woman is not ready to listen to what exactly the man is saying. Usually it's the other way around. Usually it is men who don't really listen to women. Men are actually creatures who thinks that everything with the skirt wandering around is somebody who's up for grabs. That's the kind of thought about 90% of the men who are out there. That's how they think. So they basically have a feeling that a woman should not be listened to, or they're listened to in the sense not by words, but by whatever happening in their life. We don't really care. We live our life, you follow up. That's a kind of attitude about 90% of the men even now, even these days, have with many people talking about equality and all other things. Now, that's what I was actually saying. A woman not listening to a man, and the man end up being the loser here. What if that is the case? I was actually thinking in that direction. And then I wrote the normal context of how that breaking up of things happens. This is what this poem is all about. All other things I will come back to it once I finish reading the poem, because this is not a short poem. This is pretty long, and there is a good night stanzas I have gone through that like last night and early morning. I was going through this and I was modifying the poem, and so that it can be brought to the context, and pretty much I know this poem was part of a different set of poems, so the copyright actually belongs to that group. Excuse me. And that's what this is all about. I'm going to read out, and I don't want water to drip all over my mustache and beard. Can you see my beard? Okay. I'm trying to grow this. This looks pretty silvery right now. Many people actually said, "Are you trying to become younger or trying to become super old?" Either way, it can go either way. I said, okay, there's no interest in getting younger because I already passed the younger years. I always like a mystery of things, but that's not the idea. I thought, okay, maybe, and somebody said, why don't you put on some of your, the dye you use on your hair? The funny part is, I don't use any dye on my hair. If you come close to me, you will understand I have a lot of gray hair on my head too. At 48 years old, okay, I have a lot of gray hair. Even I had gray hair even when I was 18 years old. So I had gray hair back here. So they are all out there. But it looks pretty dark. I said, okay, I don't have any dye on my hair, so I'm not going to do that. And I don't have enough growth to actually put something called henna. Henna is something, easily used by people on their beard. It looks pretty red. So I said, okay, that may be a good look for me, with my, deep tan skin and, henna on my beard. That may look good, but I need a lot more growth. You can see, here it haven't really grown really well in these sides. It may take another couple of weeks or maybe a month before I can say, and that will be November. So I don't know how long I'm going to keep, because this may help me in the winter, but I don't want it to water to fall all over me and blah 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 blah. Like the dwarf in Lord of the Rings, where he drinks and everything falling all over this beard. No, I'm not going to grow that long. Then I need to do the mastery of shaping this. I don't want a lot of hair here because I don't like seeing hair from here. That's one of the problems when I grow beards. So all that. And coming back to the poem, that's pretty much the idea from where this poem is current version stands. As I said, the last one is the best one, and there is going to be none more. about my own romantic feelings. The poem pretty much ends there. That's what I'm coming down to. So this is the last part of explanation I'm going to do. I once more say the last one is the best one, and there is none more. I'm not going to go after, look at me. Look at me. I have a beard, I have a big belly, and I'm a walking, talking poet. I live my poetry through many things. However, I have my feelings, and like I explained in a couple of other videos, if you go back and watch those videos, if you don't have time, you don't have to, because most of my videos are like 1 hour, 2 hours, it comes to, and what I'm saying is, I'm not a person who can actually take all the feelings I have for one lady and take that, and suddenly once I say, okay, yeah, that's not working out, or that girl is not liking me, and that lady is thinks that I'm not her type, so I'm going to stop all my feelings towards her, and I take all that feeling and I'm going to actually go and put it somewhere else. I'm no longer that kind of a person. I tried this before and I was very hurt. Of course, going back, and if you are going to think about things, you can see many of my writings actually go through what hurt me. I don't want to put myself into a situation where I feel hurt, where I feel, or maybe people may think, or people may actually come to a conclusion that I'm obsessed with that situation. That should not be the case. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not obsessed with that situation. I'm not completely bound to that situation. But in a way, the situation is bound to me. I'm not. The situation is bound to me because each person have their own character. My character is okay, and my feeling towards this particular lady is, she's the person. I chose her, and even so, you can understand. I wrote in one of my blog posts saying that it is like going into a pet store and saying that is my cat, and take a cat at home. The problem with that is the cat should choose you too, because cats always choose their masters, or cat is the master. So here comes the magical word I have used in the last poem. I'm not going to spit it out right now, but if you read the poem, you will understand where I am going with that. I'm not the master of things. I want things to be commanded. That last poem, I'm not going to read it out right now. I don't think I have enough time. But, maybe another occasion I will read. But it all comes down to that, because I cannot command to someone, and tell them, love me, okay, or like me. Like this is who I am. Why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? Why don't you like me? I cannot say that. I cannot, this romantic feeling is something mutually understood and accepted by people, and performed. I mean, that means, okay, romance is not something you keep inside of you. When you go and say it, even in the briefest possible way, when you go and express that, it is not rewarded. Make sure you shut it down. And that's what I'm going to say. This is where it is. I'm done more. I'm done. So if by 48, if you are not realizing that, there is none more, yeah, that's another problem. You're trying to do the thing all over again and again and again. And I think Albert Einstein, he's a much more wiser person than me, said that is a sign of insanity. I'm not into that. So let's come to the poem, and let me bring this up. I need to see this whole thing. I am going to bring the poem up. Where is it? So I have to go and bring this up. Yeah. Okay, here we go. And I need it in my thing. Okay, here is our poem. Ray of light from a pure soul. Silence inside the mind nested. Then, like migrating birds, silence all around spread. And through many paths gone, where darkness in celebration danced. Celebration of loneliness and heartless immorality. Of life by wrongdoings and mistakes shredded, then by stormy thoughts scattered. Paths passed by lies, deception, tears, and prayers filled. Tears shed to correct the incorrect and failed. prayers prayed, seeking forgiveness of sins committed. Oh, life left sarcastic smiles upon a bruised face. Every moment left nightmarish memories, and through it all, unheard, unsought, and unloved lived. Words can describe the squeezing feeling, and screams can relieve the pain excruciating. Meaningless, aimless days spread through to weeks, and weeks to months, and they all pushed through years of a rejected mind filled with lonely dreams. Oh, a lover who loved and became a poet who only wrote about love and only by disappointments loved, and by faceless phantoms in fantasy of expected reality. Light lost its meaning from a darkened life, though the sun still shined way above, and the darkness through every view spread. And it was in the dance of darkness silence joined. Oh, how many times into the dark hole fallen, and every time in hope looked, deeper and deeper fell. Then came a girl as a ray of light, brighter than the sun she shined, warmer than all love existed, warmth she spread. Beauty of soul she shone, beauty of character she shone, stretched to her arms and soul with innocence filled charms. And in front of it all dissolved the darkness surrounded. Every word she spoke, every gesture she shown, oh, woke up a mind forever in virtual death left. By the hard rock tunes, silence subdued, mine too danced in joy and hope, and dreams weaved in virtue of promise and promises and shared love. Oh, two passion-filled eyes in the ray of light seen, those thick red curly hair, and in the middle a wonderful face. But through it all, everyone looked, felt a loving soul. But for her, all a game in a wild and virtual world. The smiles and love, the silly jokes and remarks, her anger and sadness, and the command of the boss. Oh, she in her all forgot, game in a younger world changed into serious reality right under her nose. Amid the chaos of a wicked world she forgot, a poet wrote the reality of her love she misunderstood. Even when she rejected the love offered, she forgot. Ah, an empty soul she has not. In words and deeds, apologetic, she turned off the ray of light that spreads hope and love. Leaving soul once more in the clutches of love, only disappointment in colorless images can give. By the light she left in soul remained, yet another face embedded in soul. But as a ray of light in dark paths ahead forever will shine. There I am coming back from the poetry, from my own poetry, I am coming back to you. So here we go. So, as you may have read, I mean, you may have to go back to this poem and maybe go to lonelypoet.com, find the poem and read it, as well as, or watch this video, read along maybe a couple of times before you can grab the whole thing. The idea is, okay, when somebody actually rejects it, there are reasons that comes in, and most of the reasons at that time turns out to be out of, if you are not communicating properly. That's what I'm saying. If you are not listening properly, you will end up being completely misunderstood. You will end up being misunderstood. It's not that you are going to misunderstand anything. You already are misunderstanding things, but then you will not be able to express your things. What you want to say. When you say things, those are going to be misunderstood. So that's the thing. And when you don't listen, and you end up being misunderstood, it's very chaotic. The life becomes chaotic. Some people ask it at that time, why do you care? Because then it's already not happening. So why don't you just move on? So life just doesn't happen in that move on phase of things at that time. You will move on eventually, but the chaos exists, and the chaos should be understood and accepted. If you are not doing it, then you have a problem. So the picture that was given was, chosen by James Roy Nord. I mentioned that name. He's a fantastic character. One of my friend, CJ, Christopher James, who I know from Blog TV. When I say Blog TV, many people actually hear it as Blog TV. Blog TV, BLOG TV. Long time back, that site existed in 2000. By the end of 2007, I came to that site. Kira, that's the name of the lady who actually brought me there, and Natalie Ann. Of course, I know her from MySpace. And now Natalie Ann is Natalie Taylor. She's a singer. So I know her from there. She also said it's a wonderful place. You can come there. You can do live shows, poetry, things like that. So when I started shows, there was absolutely nobody there. Then slowly, Steven, came up. He started doing shows. His shows were much more popular because it was appealing to very young folks. Even though Stephen was much more older than me. And then, there I met CJ. Or his name was Scriptor. My phone is. And it was a very, very, very fantastic time. We went through 2012, and by about 2012, things started really, really slowing down. I used to do regular shows. Stephen and me, we all used to do regular shows, but many people actually grown up and they dropped out. Many of our viewers themselves actually moved on. Even though in the end there was a time I had like more than 1,000 subscribers in there, but that kind of subscription level dropped down to about 800. When the blog TV was ending, it was like around 800 I had. Steven had like 3,000 or 4,000 subscribers. It was very nice. We all used to do coordinate shows and things like that. And Scriptor came to my show. I don't know, only a couple of times. I think he was not a very regular visitor, but we kept in touch through Facebook. And I went to a Milwaukee Brewers game, and I was sitting in the game, and I took a picture and posted on Facebook. And he came and commented on my thing. One of my buddies is actually from Blog TV. There was one of our buddies. He is sitting there in that stadium right now. So he responded. So we connected. Actually, he was sitting about, maybe I was sitting on the first row. He was sitting on the 11th or 12th row. So imagine that I'm sitting in a section. This guy is sitting, about for I don't know, for months, I think. So it was. Then we met at the end of it, and now we go to the game all together, because as it is baseball postseason, and the Brewers are doing extremely well. Not in the last couple of games, but they won 12 games in a row. Then now they lost 2 games in a row. Now they have to come back and win the next 2 to get into the World Series. Hopefully they do. And we go to the game together and we share, the whole things. And we tailgate together. There are some of his friends came through. It was really, really like, we are like, friends forever, who are friends from high school or something like that. No, we only met like 2 months back, but we are very good friends. So it was really funny. Yesterday was really, really funny. That was yesterday. We were in a bar sitting, and me and James were sitting in a bar, and a sports bar, and watching the game. As I don't drink, and he was drinking, and I was eating, and I know there's a limit to which I can eat. I think I ate like 20 pieces of spicy chicken wings, and I kind of stopped at that time. He was eating, then he had a burger, then he had chicken wings, and he had some cheese curds, and a lot of beer, and eventually came out. And a lot means, he said, maybe equivalent to about 30 cans of beer when we were walking out, because all his friends actually went to see the Metallica concert. So it is very close to that. So when they came back, they were so dang, then Brewers lost. So we were coming out, and he's like, started puking all over the place. And I was like, okay, I think that happens, shit happens, right now it is puking, not shit. So I walked, it was fun, and he later said, okay, thanks for the fun, man, it was very good. So not tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we are going to actually go for the game 6. It will be fun, whether we win or not, having fun is my idea. My idea of life is fundamentally enjoy that moment, enjoy the very moment of life. if you think too much into the past, there are a lot of things which you cannot do anything about. You have done it, you have spoken it, you have written it, it's over, you move on. And today, somebody from the Brewers, actually, I said something which, people took literally. I said, Jesus Aguilar. I think that's how you say his name. I call him Jesus. The Milwaukee Brewers player. He's one of my favorite players too. He was not hitting properly. So I said, Jesus Aguilar is a cheap criminal. So I'm talking not in the literal cheap criminal. I said I wrote it there. And people started calling me fucking assholes. What the fuck are you talking about? And I'm using F word. But this is something which they said. I blocked those guys out, so I don't want to deal with that. But when it comes to profanity, okay, you can't beat me. I will speak it. I will do it. If that's what it takes. But people will take things literally. In the same way, when you go to a game, people get emotional, people get literal. When people are emotional, they will become literal. They are not going to speak, look into the, in a metaphoric sense or in a simile sense, so that's one of the disadvantages of becoming a poet, because the one thing poets do is try to actually, how should they? I try to sprout something emotionally inside a person. And a person, once becomes emotional, should understand that we are sitting in a poetic world, and there are a lot of images and things a poet shows, but that's not the literal part of it. That is just an image you are showing to actually show something else. And this is, now how I connected to that. Okay, I took something literally from my life. Literally, that happened earlier today when I said, Jesus Aguilar is a cheap criminal. But is he a cheap criminal? No, he is an amazing, hitter in a baseball team who is hitting really well. Well, he didn't really do well. That's what exactly I meant. I used the word cheap criminal. But if you take it literally, he didn't do any crime. You can call me what you called, and I totally agree. But is it what I meant? You need to understand that. Everybody is frustrated. Everybody is, because we have a great team. We have great hitters who are not hitting. So, so it came down to that frustration and things like that. So those kind of things will happen in the coming days. So even at that time I understood, okay, yeah, I should not be using these kind of words. But, that's who I am. But if you want to really deal with me, that's how things will happen. I may say things, I may do things, I may write things, but is it what it is all about? You have to look into it. You have to read it. You have to understand it. And now I'm going to go back to a poem. One poem before is something I wrote saying, fluttering promises to a boss. You should read the poem. That, if you are literally taking a boss part in that poem and try to see things in the perspective of a boss. No, it's not. What I am saying in the poem, you should really, really clearly go back to it and see. Why I mentioned that was today also in the poem I said boss. That means somebody who should actually commanding things. I said earlier, this is not something that we can actually come back and say, okay, I'm going to stand eye to eye, hand to hand, and dictate things to another person. No, I want us to take command and make the romantic feeling the command of things rather than we command literally to each other. That's what it's all meaning. I don't know. I'm much farther about it right now. When things evolve, I will let you know. So it's kind of hot because I don't know, for some reason this stupid heater that is sitting here, it is not turning off. It's automatically supposed to turn off. Something went wrong with it, so I may have to turn that off. So I'm going to actually wrap this, and I'm going to go. I was actually playing some music, and I really wanted to play that, but right now at this time I don't know how to actually bring that music in. It's very fascinating. If you go to the poem or the blog post, you can hear the Chopin's really beautiful music. Just listen to it, while reading the poem. It may help. Keep two browser windows open, listen to it. So that's about it. And at this point, I think I may have to show something. Last time things really didn't end properly. So, so maybe I should actually bring this and see how I can do this. Oh, okay, I cannot scroll like that. Okay, I'm going to show a blank screen before I say bye bye, so that people will see a blank screen, and in the blank screen you may actually hear me, but you won't see me. That means my show is over. People move on, go to sleep, go. If you want, you can keep on reading the poem, listening to me. And next time, I may try to do something better, something shorter, some of the short poems which I wrote recently. I may bring the poem first here before I post it on Facebook. So that's about it. You all have a fantastic night. Okay, good night, goodbye.